Hey, thanks for being here as always. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever led your church when the budget is tight? I have to imagine the answer is yes. Probably all the time, the answer is yes. And I don't know your situation. Maybe a campaign stalled or year end is closing in and those numbers just are not where you really need them to be. This is such a common feeling, especially right now. We're halfway through a year. We're looking at kind of Q3 and especially Q4 to make up all the ground. And this is going to be the fun part of the exercise, or maybe this fake scenario. But you're looking at the metrics, the dashboard. Your admin is woe is me, things are not great, and just out of nowhere. And maybe this has happened to you. A check arrives, one family, one big gift, and the gap, that financial gap just closes. In fact, it doesn't even close, it is eliminated. You're in the black, right? No more red. And you exhale. And anybody who has ever carried financial weight of a church, you know that exhale, you know that feeling. Today, in this conversation, I want to talk about what that exhale quietly does to everyone else in the building. Because the gift that rescued your budget, it might be the same thing that is stalling generosity across your entire church. That one family, that one check, it might be the thing that's creating the gap. So when one donor can cover a shortfall like that, you stop having to develop everyone else. And you don't do it on purpose, right? Like nobody decides that. You would never stand up in a staff meeting and say, since the Smiths came through again, let's not bother forming anyone else this year, right? You would never say that. But that can often be the practical result when the Smiths come through again. The pressure that used to push you towards building a culture of giving just got absorbed by a single signature, right? That the need disappeared and the work disappeared right along with it. And, you're a pastor, I get it, you call it provision. And I believe often that is the case. But sit with what is being kind of what's been happening underneath the surface for a minute, right? It has been kind of that one check kind of hands you permission to skip the slow and uncomfortable work of spiritual formation, of growing people's generosity in their faith and towards the things that God is up to. So, yeah, the check funds the budget, but it almost unforms everybody else. So in many churches, right, somewhere along the way, so many of us just started treating giving, this is a fun way to say it, like plumbing. Money flows in, ministry flows out, and the faster the gap closes, the healthier the whole pipeline system looks. So when a big gift lands, every kind of signal on your dashboard turns green. And you know what it looks like? Margin looks like spiritual maturity. Like margin can cover a multitude of sins. Margin can make it look like, and I don't mean this to be negative, but can make it look like you are crushing it as a leader and not as a spiritual leader. I don't mean it just like theologically and preaching and all those things. It can make it look like you are just killing it. You're doing such a good job in discipleship pathways and journeys and generosity journeys, when the reality is one person just came through. And a person coming through versus growing people in their spiritual maturity and formation, those two things are definitely not the same. I mean, you can have a fully funded budget and a completely unformed church sitting in the exact same room. Now, here's the piece, and I wrote about this on the blog today, but like I want to go a little deeper into this part of it because your lead giver, right, the one that is carrying the most weight is, and not always, but sometimes they're the least discipled giver in a church. I mean, think about this for a minute. Like, when was the last time you challenged your biggest donor to grow? Right? I mean, I know you thank them and you send them notes and you make sure they feel appreciated. And we should do that. Appreciation is good in helping them connect the dots between their immense generosity and the mission and life change. They need to experience and understand that, right? But the problem is that gratitude becomes kind of the ceiling. So we're so relieved by what the Smiths gave that we're maybe nervous about losing it. In fact, we can be so nervous about losing the Smiths that we never invite them into a next step of their own. So the people funding the church the most are often the people that we disciple the least. And you know what? That should really bother us. And then there is a quieter cost to this. Your budget is kind of a sermon. And every time one family carries the load while everyone else coasts, your church is learning something about money and faith. Even when you never say a word from the stage, from the platform, from your pulpit, right? They're learning that generosity is, and I hate this, it's somebody else's job. So here's the principle I just would love to anchor in for us today, right? A big check, right, can fund the budget while forming no one in the process. That's the principle of this. And a big check can manufacture a discipleship problem that you'll not even see until you are way past depositing that check. So picture everyone in your church just sitting somewhere on a giving journey of their own, right? You have non-givers who have never taken a step but need a first step. You have the occasional kind of giver, the tipper, who just moves when something moves them. You have this ministry giver, or maybe the investor. These are the phrases, the terms I use when we're categorizing givers, who they are beginning to give more, or the investor who has a plan. It's not an incredible plan potentially, but they are investing in life change in others, right? And you have that steward, that lead giver who's carrying more than everyone else really in the room probably realizes, right? Every one of those people has a next right step that should be put in front of them. And when one check covers the year, not a single one of those people at times gets asked to take the next step. Why? Well, honestly, because usually pressure is what causes us to push on things. So if we don't feel pressure, we just don't push. So you experience that gift and it is relief. Well, the people in your church, really, it's created a ceiling for them because the invitation that could have stretched them was never given. Because why? You stopped needing it to happen. So, just super practical, two things that I'd love for you to think about this week. First, I'd love for you, and you probably already know this, I'd love for you to pull a giving report or have somebody do this for you and calculate the percentage of your annual budget that depends on your top five households. Okay, so just five. And is it, 5% of your budget or is it 50% of your budget? But get the actual figure and then ask the question that the number really forces. If one of those families left, I mean, and maybe it's a positive thing, they moved, or it could be that they were frustrated, or maybe, there's a tragedy, somebody passes away, right? Or they lose the capacity to give. What would your church like, or how would your church bend? Or would it break? If the honest answer is break, then you are leading a funded church and funding is very fragile. That's something important to know. Here's the second thing, though, and this is the one that I think most of us as pastors tend to want to skip. I'd love for you to schedule at least one conversation. Just pick your largest giver or one of the people on that top five list. And instead of sending them like another thank you note or having coffee where you just, thank them again, I want you to invite them into a next step of their spiritual formation. Like ask them what God might be stirring in their heart. And it might be around generosity, it might be about something completely different. But I want you to see them and treat them as a disciple with room to grow, not like an account that you are protecting. Right? That single conversation can start breaking the gratitude ceiling. And you know what it does? It models the exact kind of thing that you want spreading through the rest of your church. So find that percentage that's being funded by your top five people and then have at least one conversation. And I'd love for you to put it on your calendar, try to do it maybe before the month ends. Now, just remember this as we wrap up, right? That donor, right, will not be there forever. Those top five people aren't going to be there forever. I mean, things are going to change. Health changes. Loyalty can shift, right? Wealth can move or somebody relocates. The day that check stops, your problem will not be just the budget, right? You will be standing in front of a church full of people that you never fully taught to give. And they're not going to have a culture of generosity to fall back on. And you won't either, right? So no, there is no like quick way to build a pathway that we haven't been working on for a while. So, this is the exact work that we do, by the way, inside the Generosity Journey Lab. You've probably heard me talk about that. I developed this proven system. I led for 13 years in a lead pastor seat. I have now worked with hundreds and hundreds of churches on generosity. And we've developed a system that we have tested over and over and perfected that can help you grow generosity in your church and create a journey for everybody in your church. So I'd love for you to consider jumping in to that next generosity lab. If you could just go to the website, gavinadams.com, you can see the different services, the leadership lab. That's what you want to get in. Now, last thing, just as a reminder, find that number, find that percentage, and then build a system that moves everybody forward. So you stop relying on those top people. Hey, I'll see you next time.